everyone, and welcome to the MFG Advocate. Today we're talking to Rob Gremley, the Executive Vice President of the Internet of Things for PTC. How are you today, Rob?
I'm great, thank you.
So it seems like everywhere you look, we're hearing about the industrial internet. It's all over the place. What kind of impact is that having on manufacturing?
Well, I think we can break that into two pieces. First is the implications on the product itself as an OEM, and the other is into the manufacturing process itself. So in the first case, products are becoming smarter. We're putting a lot more embedded software in them that affords us the opportunity to create new features and functions and capabilities in the product. And once I have all that software and that connectivity, it's not that big of a leap of logic then to connect it to the internet. So this notion of a smart product, a product that has lots of software in it, and a connected product affords us now to have this kind of digital umbilical cord to the product. And it opens up sort of reams of opportunity in terms of how I would operate it and service it, and even how I would create it in the future. As a manufacturer, I'm not necessarily making that product, but I'm using that connected product. And in many cases, I'm using a collection of heterogeneous connected products in a manufacturing environment. So I also want connectivity to those products, not because I have made the product, but because I'm using them to make other products. It's what GE refers to as the brilliant factory, putting sensors all in the environment of the factory that would allow me to optimize its throughput and productivity and yield and output.
Now on the process side, it seems to make complete sense that anybody with a factory would want to know what's going on in that environment there, monitoring all that data and information. But what is the resistance to adopting this type of technology?
Well, I think one of the resistances is concern about data commerce and security. So let's take the last one first, which is if I'm grabbing sensor information, machine information off of the product, and I'm putting that in flight to the internet, I think a lot of people have concerns that that data could be sort of interrupted while I'm first gathering it, and then I'm transmitting it to the internet, and then once I put it on the internet, where is it? Is it in my own cloud infrastructure? Do I put it in an Amazon infrastructure? So one of the resistances is just a security concern, and there's an entire sort of sub-industry inside of the IoT industry which is focused specifically on solving the most critical needs around security. In fact, PTC ourselves have a tremendous investment in securing data on the machine, securing data while it's in flight to the cloud, and then securing it while it's in the cloud, whether that's an OEM's cloud infrastructure or PTC's cloud infrastructure. The second is around this whole notion of data commerce, which is who owns the data? Does the OEM, because I manufacture the product, do I own the data? Does the owner-operator own the data? And a great example there is let's say an over-the-road truck. That over-the-road truck might have been manufactured by Mack, and Mack buys their engines from Cummins Diesel. So Cummins has a connected engine that's sitting inside of a connected truck, but then the lessor that owns that truck is saying, hey, I want the data too. So there's this whole brokering mechanism that has to happen of who actually gets access to what pieces of data that are coming off of a connected product. That also is an entire sort of sub-industry inside of the IoT space right now. So I think security concerns are one sort of detractor right now or inhibitor, and the other is this whole notion of data commerce.
So speaking of security and sort of concerns along those lines, our devices are getting smarter and more automated and doing more things on their own, which is cool in some ways, but it can really creep people out too when it's things like my car is driving itself, my thermostat is setting itself. So, what is the balance between consumer comfort and pushing out all the things that we can actually do?
Well, I think it's a great question. I think it really comes down to a comfort with connectivity. Connectivity is here to stay. It's just that it's starting to emerge in more and more of our daily lives and products that we use. And maybe I'll give an example, a software example, that I think is sort of a precursor to what's going to start happening in hardware. And that's Facebook. If we thought about 10 years ago that all of us would have Facebook pages where we would be sharing family photos and personal information and so forth in the cloud, I think we would have said, that's kind of creepy. I'm not sure I want to put all of my personal information out there on the internet. Facebook did a really great job of making that secure, making people feel safe. I can share some things, I don't have to share all things. I don't think they've had a big hacking problem at all. And I think the same thing's going to happen on the hardware side. People are going to realize that the benefits of having a connected product outweigh the sort of creepy risks of having a connected product. I actually find it fantastic to have a connected thermostat or a connected car. The features and functions that are afforded to me now because of lots of embedded software in the product and connectivity to that product, for me personally, outweigh some of the risks that I would see if that product would, has a connectivity issue, let's say. So I think it's a risk-benefit issue, and I think increasingly the manufacturers are doing a fantastic job of having the benefits outweigh the risks.
Now, something else that I find really fascinating is this idea of a product going out into the market and then all this data going back to its manufacturer to find out all kinds of things about how it's used and its life cycle and any kind of issues along the way. So do you think that maybe companies might be leaving potential things on the table if they're not taking advantage of doing something like that?
I absolutely think that's the case. This idea of having, we call it a digital umbilical cord, a connection to the product, opens up huge new avenues for creating, basically economic value, putting new features and functions in the product that I couldn't before, or avoiding costs that I was incurring because of the lack of connectivity to the product. So, I think that this idea of feedback loops is sort of one of the easiest ways to think about why connectivity is so important and why every manufacturer should be thinking about it. If I have a line of sight to the product while it's in use, not through the owner-operator, but through a digital connection to the product itself, I can learn an awful lot about how it's being used, whether I put the right features and functions and capabilities in the product. I can learn when it needs to be serviced. I can tune it and optimize it for its particular usage. None of that was really afforded to us before without connectivity, or if it was, the only way I got that information was through the owner-operator. I had to wait for the operator to act as a proxy for the product. The operator climbs down off the excavator and says, it doesn't feel right, it's not running right, there's blue smoke coming out of the back of it. It's a lot better, rather than relying on the human operator of the product, it's a lot better to get your own sort of digital umbilical cord plugged into the product and you're monitoring it through tons of sensors on the product. And again, optimizing its usage, its features, its functions, and mostly its service.
So one last question for the people who want to know more. I know PTC was part of what was called the definitive article on the Internet of Things. Where can people find that?
Yeah, so we had the opportunity to do a 2-year research project with Michael Porter, famous strategist at Harvard Business School. And we wrote about the transformation that's going to happen in manufacturing because of the advent of what we call in that article smart connected products. Products that have a lot of software in them and products that are connected to the internet. That research project manifested itself in the form of the cover article of the Harvard Business Review in November of 2014. It's a fantastic read. It's 25 pages of kind of tough reading, but it contains all of the right sort of thoughts and frameworks to think about the implications of the Internet of Things on a manufacturing environment. We have the rights to distribute that, so if you'd like to get a copy of it, the best place to go is www.ptc.com. Paul, Tom, Charlie, ptc.com. Click on that website and you can navigate right to it and get the PDF of it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Rob.
All right, Penny, thanks a bunch.
This has been Penny Brown for the MFG Advocate on IMTS TV.